figured out how to have better experiences as full-time travelers and realized that this is probably something that we should share with you all. So enjoy it. Enjoy our little story about how we decided to have the thighs of steel summer. And what does that mean?
Yeah, thighs of steel.
Well, who are we first?
First, we are Steve and Chris. We are EatWalkLearn. We've been traveling the planet for over 3 years now. We left Denver, Colorado, sold our home, sold everything in it. We have maybe we don't have 2 carry-on bags. That's for another video.
From last week.
But we're having some amazing experiences, and they're incredibly intentional. And this summer, we want to share a story with you to help you develop your experiences in your travel life.
So this story starts with about a year and a half ago, or maybe even 2 years ago, we read a book called Die with Zero. And the point of the book is when you die, you should have zero money left in your bank account. That if you're saving all your money for all these things that you think might happen, those things aren't going to happen, and you should be living your life of experiences. Now, I don't know that we're necessarily advocating that you should die with zero money in your bank account, but we like the philosophy of live your life for experiences, don't live your life for things, and don't be putting your money off and off and off thinking that something's going to happen in the future. Enjoy your life now. So that was the basic premise of the book. And what did we discover when we started talking about the experiences that we wanted to have?
In our conversation about our experiences and what it is that we wanted to see for our life, we realized that there might be some things that were missing. So for example, when we lived in Denver, Colorado, Chris spent a lot of time hiking. We both spent a lot of time hiking and really enjoyed being out in the woods and having different experiences in mountains. And I was kind of an avid cycler, so I would go out riding at least 2 or 3 times a week, rain or shine, blizzards or sunny days. And she's looking at me like, you didn't do it.
I don't remember. Anyway, the point was that he did like to cycle. And he actually trained a lot to do long distance cycling. He did a lot of fundraising for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. How much did you raise? Like $500,000, you and your team, right?
It's $500,000. And since we've left, the team has now raised over $1 million for leukemia research.
Little shout out, go team to the team in training, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society team in Denver. But the point was, you did a lot of training, you did a lot of biking, you had a lot of camaraderie with your friends, and you achieved a lot of goals, literally learning how to cycle and then becoming a long distance cyclist.
Yeah, and the one thing that I learned is that it's really hard to fit a bicycle in your suitcase. I've tried. You can't do it.
So when we were assessing the experiences we want to have, and the vision that we had originally when we were in Denver thinking about our nomad life was we wanted to hike and bike a lot. And what we realized, we kind of had a little truth serum was, I had my knee problem, we weren't hiking, blah, 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 blah. We weren't doing the hiking and biking that we thought we were going to be doing. And so for this year, we thought, all right, we need to get back to this vision and really live the theme of the Die with Zero book and figure out how to bike and hike a lot more in our life, because that's kind of what we set out to do as full-time travelers.
Right.
So then we started thinking about a conversation we had with our dear friends Bob and Javier in Western Mass, and they had done a really fun bike and sail trip in Croatia a couple years ago, and I remember seeing pictures about them. So I reached out and asked Bob, "Hey, where'd you go?" And he gave us the link for the biking place. So I went and looked at the link, and we then recalled a conversation that we had when we were in Split, Croatia, about seeing all those bikes on all the yachts and things that were coming into Split.
We would be out by the marina, and we'd see these small yachts with bicycles, all over them, mountain bikes, and like, what are bikes doing on boats in the marina? And this is how we found out about these trips that you can go on.
So we looked at the place that Bob and Javier, we'll put a link down below, and they found out that this group not only does Croatia, but it does Turkey. And we're trying to get to Turkey, and we thought, oh my God, they've got a ride in October, which when the weather's going to be great in Turkey, it won't be too hot. They've got a ride that goes on the Turkish coast. This is going to achieve a lot of goals that we had set out. Boom, we purchase it. And It was funny because we're talking and I'm online and I tell Steve how much it is and he says, let's do it. And then I do it. And then he's like, how much was that?
I did not. This totally ties into this theme of living your life and not trying to save all your money for forever. This is definitely a splurge for us. This is not an economy trip that we're going to be taking to Turkey doing biking and sailing. But I am so excited about it. This is going to be really an experience of a lifetime. And it's one of those things that, as we're thinking about it and we're planning about it, it's coming up, in October, and we're like, oh, we got lots of time. But, training for a long distance bike ride is a challenge. And then the other experience that we're going to be doing this summer.
So we had done the Camino previously with our good friends Kirsten and Peter, had a great time with them. And we had done the Camino, the Portuguese ocean, what was it called?
The coastal.
Portuguese coastal. And we enjoyed our time with them, but we realized that we really want to go have a more authentic, true, community-oriented, camaraderie Camino. And the best way to do that is to do the Francés. So we decided we were going to hike the Francés. Now, the Francés starts in France and ends in Spain, in Camino in Santiago de Compostela. And it's a long distance. It's like 500 miles, and we are out of Schengen days. So Schengen days are the amount of times Americans can be in Europe. You can only be here for 90 days at a time unless you get a visa, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go into the details, but we had 90 days. And when we looked at Camino, we don't have enough time of our time in Europe to do the whole Francés. So I started thinking to myself, well, I know you can do the Camino one of three ways. You can bike it, you can horseback ride it, or you can hike it. I thought, wonder if we did a combination of bike a portion of it and hike a portion of it.
Yeah. And when Chris said that, the light bulb came on, and I was like, yeah, we could do a lot more of it than we had planned, and we could have that biking experience again and do a week long. So Chris's idea was, we do, some hiking, some biking, and some hiking. And so I put on my logistics hat and I started looking at the route and what we could do and how we could do it. Figured out that we could do a little bit over 100 miles of walking the Camino, and then 250 miles of biking it, and then finish off with another 100 plus miles of hiking to get into to Santiago. And that we could do the Francés Camino in that way and get it all done in...
Well, not the whole thing. We're going to do about 3/4 of it. We're going to start at Logroño. Yeah. So, but basically, we're going to be able to do what we intentionally want to do, and that is be on the Camino long enough, build some community and camaraderie, and hike it and bike it. So we found some bikes, a bike rental company that will drop off and pick up your bikes anywhere on the Camino. So that may work for us. And so we booked it. So then we're like, okay, we got this big bike ride in October in Turkey. And now we have 250-mile bike ride in September in Spain. Oh my God, we need to train now. How are we going to train?
Yeah. And so, back to, I've done a lot of cycling and had to prepare and train for really long bike rides. We used to do annual bike rides around Lake Tahoe and, the lakes and the mountains. And
the world's most beautiful bike ride, right?
World's most beautiful bike ride. 100 miles in one day is a huge challenge. And for me, it's not as much about, do you have the physical stamina to ride a bicycle?
I don't know. For me, I got to get, I'm a good walker, but man, I don't know about 250 miles.
Well, it is about that, but it's more about you're sitting on a bicycle seat for many hours and days in a row. And it is your bottom in condition in order to handle that kind of endurance, that kind of bike ride.
I don't know. People say I'm a hard ass.
Yes, they do, which is it's not true. You still need some training for that to strengthen up those thighs and strengthen up that butt. So that's
thighs
where thighs of steel, came in. And so now we're in. I had to think about it. We're in Riga, Latvia. Beautiful weather, lots of bike trails. Just a great environment to do some bike training and some bike riding.
Yeah, and for those of you who are cyclists and know about the whole cycle network here in Europe, Velo 11 and Velo 13 come through Riga. And see, these are long distance bike ride. I mean, like 100 or 1,000 kilometer trails through the Baltic area of Europe. And so those come through Riga. And of course, you have the infrastructure of secondary trails to connect to those. So we didn't know this when we came to Riga, but doing our research, we We got bike maps and all kinds of things. And we found all this out and realized that Riga actually in Latvia has some incredible biking community and biking trails and biking infrastructure. And it's relatively flat, which is nice. And we can do some real good training. So now we got to figure out how to get bikes. And we jokingly said our bikes don't fit in our carry-ons. So we had 3 choices. We could go buy new bikes and then sell them when we leave, buy used bikes and sell those when we leave, or find some place to rent. And what we also need is helmets and locks as well. And we realized if we did the new or the used, we'd also need to get helmets and bikes. And we did, and then we actually tapped into some of the expat groups here in Latvia to see if any of the people there and the bike community there might have bikes we could borrow. None of that worked out. And we found a bike shop here in town, great bike shop called Rental Bikes Riga. And we'll put a link down below. And we called them up and we said, hey, we need some bikes. And what we realized was we could approach the bike shop as if we were going to help them have business on days that they weren't busy. So like the cruise ships come in here. What if we could get bikes on days that the cruise ships aren't here or on the weekdays rather than the weekends, whatever. So we went and we talked to the owner of the local bike shop and we said, hey, we need a bike. We need 2 bikes for 10 days over a 30-day period and helmets and locks and all that. What would you charge us? And we had a nice chat. Yeah,
we had a nice chat, and we came up with an agreement that I thought was a fabulous deal that enabled, again, them to have the business that they wouldn't normally have because they do just a lot of tours and things like that. And so we would just, show up in the morning, get the bikes, bring them back in the, in the afternoon. And that way, if anything was, happen with the bikes, they would have time to do any kind of adjustments or anything. That we wouldn't be able to do that if we owned the bikes. We'd have to take them to a bike repair place and pay more money for them to fix it. And the establishment, the management, and the ownership of this bike shop was great in working with us, and highly recommend them when you come to Riga.
Yeah, so we made a deal with them, and then we went over to Decathlon and we got our bike shorts and our bike gloves and bike mounts for our phones. And I think we're like €200 combined of all this stuff together. We now are outfitted and ready to do our training plan. So Steve, being the professional bike training coach that he is, has put together a bike training plan for us.
Yeah, it's a simple plan. You start low. So we started with a 25-kilometer ride, and what is that, about 15 miles?
Yeah.
Won't try to do the kilometer to mile conversion, but to build up from there. So we eventually want to get to where we can do 60 kilometers or even higher on the bike. And what that really means is that you've got 4 or 5 hours of sitting on your bike seat. And that's what I've learned is the best way of doing the training.
I mean, I think we're already in pretty good shape, and we regularly work out, we regularly walk. I do workouts on YouTube all the time. And we're active already, and we do bike whenever we can. We'll do a bike share, or we'll find a bike in town or something. So it's not like we're starting from the couch, but my butt is certainly starting from the couch.
And just not, again, for anybody doing any training, you don't want to kill yourself the first day and then feel sorry and then take 3 days to recover.
Right.
You want to be able to build up to it. So this is how we're going to be able to do it all month long. We're going to be able to increase our stamina and increase our thighs of steel. And
we're biking and then a day off and biking a day off. And what we're allowing in our 30-day schedule, since we have 10 days of training and 10 days of days off, is a chance to do occasional, random things. We're not going to keep it from letting us see Riga or enjoying Riga. But one of the benefits of having the bike is we're getting to places that we wouldn't normally get to if we were just footbound or having to transit bound. We've actually already been 2 places already that transit didn't go to that we got to because bikes went there. So we're getting, at the end of the month, we will round up all the things we did in Riga, and a lot of that will include the things we did while we were on bicycles.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward. So we're 2 rides in to our training and feel good, doing some stretching and making sure that those muscles stay loose. And
if you've got any tips, we want to hear them. So put your tips down below. Have you ever done anything fun like this? How are you making your experiences better as you travel? And are you interested more in our Thighs of Steel summer? So give us comments right below. help us out with what you want to know about our thighs of steel and all the biking that we're going to do around Europe this summer. We'll talk to you soon.